Okay, good morning, good afternoon, good evening. Hope all of you are doing great. Ashutosh here. And first of all, thanks to the Agile Waters team for giving me an opportunity to talk on a topic. And the topic, as you know, is design thinking from ideas to innovation. So that's the topic which I'll be talking about. And yeah, I'm sure, I'm pretty sure that you know about design thinking. You know what exactly it is all about, but I thought that I'll try to give it a kind of a different perspective, or a different thought to the design thinking process as such, right? That's the intention, wherein I have tried to come out with this topic. And yeah, brief introduction about myself. Ashutosh Bhattodekar, an enterprise agile coach, a trainer, and a consultant. Have around 23 years of experience in the industry. And yeah, yes, I do write articles. I do have a lot of other videos also which I have shot on my channel. You can go and have a look at them. And yeah, looking forward to be with all of you here at this moment, right? So on that note, let me start with a quick kind of a icebreaker activity. And yeah, I think many of you would have seen this earlier. Many of you would have known about it, but just a quick thing. Any idea what is this picture all about? Any guesses? What is this picture all about? In case you have seen this earlier. Anyone would like to answer that? I hope I'm audible. Yeah, just checking on that.
Is that a projector?
Projector. Okay, interesting. Anyone else? Projector. What else? Is it a projector or like what exactly is this?
Like
okay,
a video recorder.
A video recorder. Okay. A video recorder. Okay, interesting. Yeah, I think it looks like a video recorder. It looks like that old antique piece with a cassette in it. I think, our children will not even know what a cassette is, but this has got a cassette in it with a slot. And then I think it appears to be a big, bulky document, right? Okay. Yeah. So this incidentally is the world's first digital camera. It was developed by a company which we all grew up with, the Kodak moment, as we used to call it, Kodak, in 1975. It weighed almost 3.5 kilograms or 8 pounds. It had a resolution of 0.01 megapixel. Yes, today it looks very, very trivial, right? 8 pounds, 0.01 megapixel. It used to generate a black and white photograph on a tape. And Steve Sanson was an engineer working with Eastman Kodak, and he developed this device in 1975. And this device was shared with Kodak management. And you know what? Just try to flashback yourself into 70s and 80s when when there was nothing called as digitization, right? There was nothing called as digital media. What we said, people used to love photographs as they used to come out on a photographic paper, right? And when this idea was presented, what happened was Kodak, they actually ridiculed this product. They ignored this product, they ridiculed this product, they laughed at this product, and there were some comments which were kept, which was sent around, that first of all, no one will use this product. People love to touch and feel photos, right? I love to have that emotional connect with the photograph. So I need to touch and feel the photos. No one would buy such a useless product, right? Let us not waste any time, energy, and money into this. And no one would like to watch their photos on screen. This was what the feedback, what was given by Kodak management, okay, to Steve Sasson, right? A perfect way of killing an innovation, right? And obviously this project did not proceed further than this. And yeah, what happened in 2011 is Kodak has officially become a bankrupt company. So can anyone tell me what went wrong? What went wrong with Kodak? They actually were in their own castles. They were in their own castles that, you know what, whatever we are doing is the best. No one can compete with us, right? Remember, Kodak had almost 90% of photography business worldwide. Okay, Eastman Kodak, the Kodak as a company started in 1880s, so they practically had a monopoly of more than 100 years in the photography business. So in fact, there was a Kodak camera, there was a Kodak film which used to go into that camera. There was a photographic paper on which these prints were then printed, right? And they had practical monopoly over this entire business. But what went wrong was they could not anticipate that there is a carpet which is being pulled under their feet, right? So basically, they never thought that they actually thought that their competitor is Fujifilm. I mean, those of you who know, these were the two photographic companies in the world in 80s and 90s, Kodak and Fujifilm. And they thought that, you know what, let us only fight Fujifilm. I mean, who else is our competitor? There is no one else who's our competitor, right? So we are going to fight Fujifilm because that is what our real competition is. But they were sadly mistaken. Their competitor was not Fujifilm. Their competitor was the Samsungs and the Apples of the world. They suddenly come in the late 2000. They come out with a digital camera which renders a photograph on a film and a photograph on a paper practically useless, right? It practically throws it out of the business, right? So it's a disruptor. It's a major disruptor which comes in and which unshackles a giant like Kodak. And yeah, it is officially a bankrupt company, right? It is now wound up its operations, or practically it has wound up its operation. So many businesses today are getting killed by not their by not the people in the same industry, but people outside their industry. I don't know how many of you know this. The biggest watchmaker today is not Rolex. It is actually Apple. Apple is one of the biggest watchmaker in the world today. Okay, BMW. Okay, the competition for BMWs and the Audis of the world does not come from each other, but it comes from a technology-driven company like Tesla, which comes in and disrupts the entire marketplace, right? So what I'm trying to tell here is that what worked yesterday is not going to work today. And definitely it is not going to work tomorrow. So if companies do not innovate, if organizations do not have that future vision, and they're actually going to rest on their past laurel, it is going to be very difficult. And you might have another Kodak soon hitting us any moment now, right? Another very classic example, Nokia and BlackBerry, right? I mean, they were practically ruling the mobile market 10-15 years back. Today they are nowhere. And in fact, there's a very famous quote of Nokia's CEO: we don't know what went wrong. We are ourselves not able to figure out what went wrong. Suddenly this smartphone revolution comes in and it disrupts the entire industry as a whole, right? So what I'm trying to tell here is that basically, and something similar happened with this business on the left-hand side, right? Companies which were manufacturing razors, companies which were manufacturing shaving blades, suddenly one fine day, a twin blade razor comes into the market and it entirely disrupts the marketplace, right? It entirely disrupts the marketplace. None of these companies are there, right? Everyone prefers to have a twin blade razor, which is a disposable one, easy to carry, easy to maintain, and yeah, use and throw, right? So most of the companies which went out of the business, they rely on what we call, or they over rely on what we call as the razor and blade model. So these companies, they don't earn money from the razor, they actually earn money from the blades. Okay, they actually earn money from the blade. Same thing was with Kodak. They did not really earn money from the camera as such, the analog camera, but now most of their revenue came from photography paper, from films. And by the way, another important thing, nowadays even movies are not shot on a film. Okay, even movies are now on a digital media, right? So that was also one of the major business which went out of Kodak, right? Because nowadays any motion picture you see, it is shot on high resolution cameras which have got memory cards in it, which have got memory discs in it. They don't really shoot on a film, because earlier that was also one of the very I would say potent business of Kodak, which was there, which they lost over a period of time. So any company which relies or over relies on this razor blade model is going to be out of business, right? It is soon going to be out of business, right? And we have seen what has happened in the cab business. We have seen what has happened in the hotels, where a company like Oyo comes in and disrupts the entire marketplace, or Lyft or Uber or Ola. These companies have actually challenged the status quo, right? They have actually challenged the mega moths of the industry, and they've actually made it basically I mean, they've made it basically through innovation is what they have done it. Okay, so some very interesting quote. Any idea what is, or I would puzzle for you, what is common amongst these companies? They're from very, very diverse industries. Boeing, aircraft manufacturer, Kellogg's, breakfast cereal, Hershey's, chocolates, Johnson and Johnson, pharmaceutical or healthcare, IBM, basically computers, Whirlpool, white goods, refrigerators, washing machines, microwave ovens. What is common in these companies? Any idea? What is it that is common in these companies? Something very, very interesting is common in these companies. Any guesses? Anyone? Anyone, any guesses on this? Yes, anyone? I hope I'm audible. Hello? Can you all hear me?
You're perfectly audible.
Okay. I thought that I lost you. Yeah, I think I'm seeing the chat window. All are leading. Yeah, that is true. All are leading, but something more interesting. Something more interesting. Something very, very interesting among these companies. Yeah, anyone?
I think they're all innovators.
They're all definitely innovators. Definitely they're innovators in their own sense. That is true. Okay, they're definitely innovators which are there. Okay, without any further ado, let me tell you what exactly are these companies all about, and what exactly are they doing. So basically, these organizations have been in the Fortune 500 list consistently from 1955 to 2017. Okay, so these are the companies which have been consistently there without a single year of break. They have been in that list. Their rankings might have gone up and down, but they are there. And how many such companies exist worldwide? Only 60. Okay, so only 60 companies exist in worldwide. 88% of the companies who are in the Fortune 500 list in 1955, they've either gone bankrupt, they've either disappeared from the list totally, or they have merged with other companies. Okay, so they have either been acquired by some other companies or they have been merged with other companies, right? So this is what is something very, very interesting, right? I mean, only few such companies are there, and we all know the famous quote: "Winners don't do different things; they do things in a different manner." I think you talked about sustainability, innovation. So that is what winners do, right? That is what winners actually do. They do things in a different way. They do things in a totally different manner, which is there, right? So that is what we need to understand here, right? So yeah, I mean, how is this tying to design thinking? Because when we see the design thinking process, and as I said, I think everyone knows about the design thinking process. Everyone knows what design thinking is all about. But when we look at the design thinking process, it is all about thinking out of the box, thinking innovatively, right? And yeah, one very important lesson from all this is that today's strength might become tomorrow's weaknesses. You might think that I am in that advantageous mode, but every competitive advantage has got a very, very limited shelf life, right? And we have to always think about forward. Today it is fine. Today I have earned so much of dollars by selling my product. But what is it about future, right? In future, will I be able to learn, right? For future, will I be able to grow? That is what is very, very important, right? That is something which is for all of us very, very important to understand as industry leaders. Okay. One very interesting quote by here: we cannot solve problems by using the same kind of thinking we used when we created them, right? So a very famous quote by an equally famous person is what we see here, right? So what I'm trying to tell here is that innovation is something which we have to always be on the toes, right? We cannot say that, okay, we will postpone the innovation. Innovation is something what we will always have to be doing it. Innovation is something which we have to make sure that I mean, the organization spends money on it, because you don't know how the world will be, right? We really don't know how the world will shape up or how the world will be in the next future, right? So I mean, companies whosoever have invested a lot in innovation, those are the companies which will not only survive, but they will thrive. Okay, they will thrive in this VUCA world, as we say, right? I mean, this is called as the VUCA world, which is which we have, right? Now, let me give you another interesting story here. Okay, another interesting story. So this is a story of a professor who administered an examination to physics students. Okay, so these were all physics students. And as he left the building, the professor gave the question paper and went out. And he said that the teaching assistant, you be the invigilator. Okay, and what happened is suddenly the invigilator starts coming out and says, sir, there's a blunder. There's a blunder. You know what you have done? You have given last year's question paper again as this year's question paper. Okay, so it is just the last year's question paper. And we all know students, right? We all know students that they will definitely mug up answers of last year's question paper. At least I used to do that when I was preparing for exam in university. And the teaching assistant is very, very panicky. Okay, and in fact, it is exactly the same paper. The professor paused for a moment and he looked at it and said, yes, it is the same test. So now the teaching assistant is asking the professor, what should we do now, sir? So can anyone tell me what will be the answer of the professor? Any guesses? What will be the answer of the professor? Will he change the question paper? Will he mark it more strictly? What do you think will be the answer of the professor? And this is a real story, by the way. The professor is none other than the picture which I showed you earlier, Einstein. And what he said is, I don't think we need to do anything. The answers have changed. I think this is the world we are living in. This is exactly the world we are living in, where the problems are probably the same, but the answers are not same, right? Answers are definitely changing. And welcome to the VUCA world, as we say: volatility, uncertainty, complexity, ambiguity. And a very famous book written by a very famous coach who has been the CEO, who has been a coach to CEO. What got you here won't get you there. Right? Whatever we did yesterday was history. Today is mystery, as they say, right? Yesterday was history. Today is mystery. So what worked yesterday is definitely not going to work today, right? Today, the problem might be same, right? At the end of the day, coronavirus is the virus at the end of the day, but the solution is not the same, right? It took the world almost a year to come out with a vaccine, and still we don't know the efficacy of the vaccine. We still don't know the side effects of vaccine, right? So slowly we are into that era where we can't solve problems by using the same ways of thinking we used when we created the problem, right? The way you think to create a problem, if you try to apply the same way of thinking, it is not going to work, right? It is going to, in fact, give you disastrous results. It might give you results which are totally disastrous or totally to the contrary what we have. Okay, so let us now try to understand the technical definition of design thinking. I mean, this is more like a standard definition, and I will spend very less time on this. It's a non-linear iterative process that teams use to understand users, challenge assumptions, redefine problems, and create innovative solutions to prototype and test, quote unquote. So this is a problem-solving approach which was first identified by Stanford University in 70s, which is based on empathy, which is based on human-centered approach. It is based on understanding the pain points what people are facing, what essentially are the pain points faced by the people. And it is more about prototyping rather than just talking about it. So any design thinking training you attend, okay, it is less of theoretical content and more on practicality, right? So you have to take a real-time problem and you have to solve it, right? So it is about bias towards action. It involves a lot of collaboration with the stakeholders, so a lot of collaboration and coordination, and which focuses a lot on culture of prototyping, right? This is what comes in as a part of the design thinking approach, or this is what we have it as a part of the innovative way of thinking. Okay, the innovative way of thinking is what we have as a part of the design thinking approach which is there, right? And it is not necessarily an IT problem. Okay, it is not necessarily an IT problem or an IT solution. It is basically what we call it as the innovative solution, right? Innovative solution to solve the problem, right? And it can apply in any field. Now, one of the first example which comes to my mind, okay, is a very, very interesting example. I don't know how many of you have seen this movie. Have you seen this movie Operation NTB? It's a real picture. It's a real movie on a real story which happened. So this actually is a very interesting operation which was done by Israeli armed forces. So what had happened was the plane was hijacked on 4th of July 1976. The plane was hijacked and it was put in an hostile country, Uganda. Okay, and this was a hostile country with which Israel, the dictator was there, and the dictator was supporter of the terrorists. Okay, this was a dictator who was actually supporting the terrorists. And you know what? Okay, yeah, there's a movie called Operation Thunderbolt, right? I mean, that is called Operation Thunderbolt actually in terms by Israel, right? And you know what they did? They actually knew that they had very less time. They actually had very less time to actually rescue the passengers. Okay, this was basically an operation which lasted only 52 minutes, exactly 52 minutes. They could rescue 102 of 106 passengers. Okay, it was in a hostile country. It was in a hostile territory where this operation was done. They actually flew aircraft with a black Mercedes. Now, why black Mercedes? You might be wondering. They actually took an aircraft from Israel with a black Mercedes car in it, and that aircraft landed at that airport where the plane was hijacked. And when the Mercedes car came out from the aircraft, the terrorists thought that it is the president of Uganda because he had a similar car. Okay. In fact, remember, it is that era we are talking about where there was no GPS, where there was no Google map, where there was no YouTube, where there was no any of these digital media. So they figured out where exactly the airport is located, where the plane has been hijacked. They had Israeli engineers who had worked on that project who gave them an idea, a brief idea about the geographical location and the buildings around the airport. So a black Mercedes enters into the airport. The Ugandan troops and the terrorists think that it is actually the president who is coming to visit them. Suddenly, what happens is commandos come out of that black Mercedes. They complete the operation within 52 minutes, and all the passengers are flown back to Israel. This entire operation lasted 52 minutes. If you ask me, this is an example of design thinking. This is actually a real-time practical example of design thinking, even before design thinking came into our vocabulary or into our lexicon, right? Because they think outside the box. Had they said that, okay, let us do a commando operation, which is more, I would say, overt or open, the success rate would have been very, very minimal. But they did it, right? I mean, they did something out of the box to come out of it, right? Okay, so this is what we call it as a design thinking to overcome a problem, right? To overcome, it's all about mindset change at the end of it. Okay, it is more about the mindset change which we have here, right? Another interesting example, and this is from I don't know if anyone is from Sweden, Stockholm, in the class, but this is a metro station called Odenplan. And you know what? There was a staircase, there was an escalator, and you know what used to happen was people used to crowd the escalator. No one was using the staircase to come out or come out of the station building. Okay, so they found that the footfall on the escalator was almost at 10 times that on the staircase. Okay, so then they had an idea. They converted the stairs on the staircase into piano keys. So anyone, when used to walk up and down, it used to be rhymed like a piano, like as if you're playing the piano. And you know what? Within a week's time, when this change was done, you found more people using the staircase than the escalator, right? And the escalator was kept reserved for old people, right? I mean, that was the motive for having that escalator. So what I'm trying to tell here is that there are a lot of such examples. There are a lot of such examples outside our field where we can apply design thinking, where we can apply these techniques to actually bring about an innovative approach or to bring about an innovative idea, right? I'll give you another example, right? I will play a short video and give me a minute. And this is a very interesting video in rural India, right? It is a very, very interesting video on rural India where basically there was a resistance, right? There was a resistance from actually people. And I mean, in rural India, you will find there's always this iodine deficiency which is found in people, right? And let me share that video with you. And yeah, I'll have to share this. So it is about women empowerment. It is about how do we make sure that health of women is taken into account, right? So let me play this video and let me know if you're able to hear this. Okay, it's a very interesting video where again you can apply this, where it is nothing but design thinking. If you see here, yeah, let me show you this video. It's a 2-minute video and I will play it now. Are you able to hear it?
Millions of women across rural India suffer from breast cancer, fibrocystic breast disease, and complications during pregnancy. Most of these cases are linked to an iodine deficiency. Supplements in the form of pills already exist, but women weren't in the habit of consuming them. So how do you give these women the required dosage of iodine? Almost every Indian woman wears a bindi, a traditional symbol of beauty. But what if these tiny little dots could do more? What if they could save lives? Talwar Bindis, in association with Neil Vasant Medical Foundation and Research Center, introduced the life-saving dot, Jeevan Bindi, an idea that transformed bindis into iodine patches. Every woman requires between 150 to 220 micrograms of iodine daily. During the course of the day, these bindis dispense that amount to the wearer. Specially created, these life-saving dots were distributed to women across rural India via health camps and clinics. In a nation of 500 million women, these tiny little dots were no longer just a symbol of beauty. They now spelt the difference between life and death.
This iodine patch, worn like a bindi, the decorative dots many Indian women wear on their foreheads, it dispenses the recommended daily dose.
All right. So I think, yeah, I mean, you saw the video, right? I mean, what exactly that video was talking about. I'm sure even if I would have gone to solve the problem, I would have said that let us force people to have pills. Let us remind them, let us send them an SMS. But how many ladies would have taken that, right? But this is a kind of a non-intrusive solution which has been developed, right? Again, I would say this is what is design thinking at the end of the day. Yes, there is a process to it, and I will quickly talk about the process. But what is important is that how do we bring about innovation into this, right? I mean, yes, we all learn about the process. There is that 6-stage diagram which will come on your screen. But what I'm trying to tell here is think outside the box. Design thinking is nothing but think outside the box and try to make it more exciting, right? Another interesting example, in a city of Mumbai, right? In a city of Mumbai, and I'm sure many people would have experienced this, that when you land, right, it is not a good sight, right? It is not really a good sight. You see a lot of slums and I mean, lot of slums around it, right? And what this project entitled was that they colored their houses. They colored their houses in very, very vibrant color. And this project is called Misal Mumbai, right? And they made these hutments in very, very lively and fluorescent colors, right? And when you now look from top right, this appears to be a very good sight. This appears to be very good sight than the dark and the dull hutment what we see. So likewise, if you look around, there are many such examples. I mean, in the interest of time, I'm not covering all of them, but design thinking is not something which came out in 70s with Stanford University coming out with a formal approach. In the past also, we have had many examples of design thinking which have been done, right? Another interesting example of design thinking. Can you tell me what exactly is this? It is from an Indian bank, of course. It is an India-based private bank, but what exactly is this product? Can anyone tell me? Anyone? If you look at this product, what exactly is this? It's a dual card, exactly. Credit card and debit card all in one card. Why do I need to carry two cards with me? Of course, this has now again been outdated with the recent digitization of Google Pay and Paytm, etc. in India. But just an innovative concept, right? A very, very innovative concept, which actually has got a debit card on one side and a credit card on another side, right? With basically two different numbers, as you can see, right? So if you want to, I mean, if you want to use this credit card or debit card, it works both ways, right? I mean, in one of the classes, one person actually joked, he said that, you know what, don't give this card to your wife because she will use the right hand side more because that's a credit card. Whereas you will prefer it to be used the left-hand side more, right? I mean, that is what this person was telling me, right? I mean, on a joke basis, of course. But yeah, but what I'm trying to tell is the bigger example which I'm trying to give here is that these are some very, very innovative ideas, right? These are something which is a very, very innovative idea. And it starts with stupidity, by the way. Again, Mr. Albert Einstein coming into our life. The difference between stupidity and genius is that geniusness has got limits. So try to be stupid. Many times we think that this idea is a very, very stupid idea. It's a useless idea. Like what Kodak management thought about Steve's idea, right? They thought it to be very, very stupid and a very, very illogical idea. But had Kodak done that, you never know, Kodak would have become a billion conglomerate by now, right? And they would not have become bankrupt, right? Had they really paid heed to what that idea is. Okay, it was 0.01 megapixel. Okay, it took a black and white photograph, but there's always a room for innovation, right? There's always a room for coming out with a better product as we have, right? So what makes design thinking special is that it can be applied across the length and breadth of the organization. Right? It is something which can be applied from the length and breadth of the organization, whether it is consumer good, armed forces, real world, like this example, which was very viral in India last year, how this milk person was distributing milk, maintaining social distance. This another example of a teacher. This is a teacher, by the way, this image was also very viral. This teacher was obviously new to online learning. She was not expert like we all are, because we have been doing online learning for pretty long. So she actually created a structure like this at home, where she could actually see the notes below the glass, and at the same time she could teach on her mobile phone, right? So a lot of these ideas, a lot of these innovative ideas come from design thinking, and it is especially useful for solving wicked problems. What are wicked problems? Wicked problems are those problems which cannot be solved with normal way of thinking, right? You cannot use the normal way of thinking or the normal thought process to solve such wicked problems, right? So that is where design thinking is especially useful. That if you have wicked problems, if you have problems which basically cannot be solved through the normal way of thinking, you have to apply the design thinking approach, right? Yeah, I mean, I thought that I will cover these examples because this will set up the context, right? Of course, there is the standard model of design thinking which is available with everyone. I think there's a piece of literature which is there, which is called as the design thinking model. And this model is the 6-stage design thinking model. Empathize. First of all, understand what is the pain point of the customer. What exactly is the customer looking for from a pain point perspective? Then define the problem. Right, combine all your research and energy to identify where exactly the user problem exists. Then ideate. Then try to come out with different solutions which could work out. So even in that NTB operation, they did ideate various options. Although the time was limited, they did come out with various options which can work out, right? So ideate the problem, ideate the solutions, ideate around the solutions, prototype, create a dummy model, right? Create a kind of a prototype basically which represents what the users think. And remember, at each of these stages, you can come back to the previous stage. It's an iterative process. It is not a linear process. It is not something which is done in a linear manner. You can come back from each one of the step to the previous step, right? So prototype, test, and finally implement. Finally, make sure that the product is implemented or the product is brought into the real world, right? So this is the classic framework, or this is what we call it as the classic framework what we have from a design thinking approach which is there. And yeah, one more very famous quote, and this time obviously not from Einstein but from a different person. You know the person. Design is not just what it looks like or okay, feels like. Design it how it works. At the end of the day, the proof of the pudding lies in its eating, right? So is it really a workable solution? Is it a solution which is working? Is it a solution which actually is giving you results, right? That is something which is very, very important. So I would like to end this session with the last slide, and then we will take up question and answers. I would like you to solve this equation using a calculator. Can anyone solve this equation for me and tell me what is the answer? Don't worry, I'm not testing your maths knowledge, but just wanted to ask you to solve this equation quickly and see what is interesting in this equation. Both the equation 1, 0.99 raised to 365 and 1.01 raised to 365. What do you observe here? What exactly do you observe here in this answers? You can use a calculator. You can use a normal calculator to solve it. Anything interesting you find here? Anyone would like to guess what it could come out?
I think in both cases, the answer is 1.
No, the answer is not 1 in both the cases. That's why I said use a calculator. Use a calculator. The answer is not 1. The answer is this. You'll be surprised to know the difference. So what the reason why I gave this was not to learn mathematics here. I think we all are learned mathematics enough. The reason why I told you was, had Kodak done this, innovation always begins in small. Even if you take a small increment, the results would be very, very spectacular, right? Even a small delta change in the process, believe me, it is going to give you spectacular results, or it is going to give you exciting results, right? That is the whole intention of having this problem statement here, or this numerical in front of all of us, that even a small delta change will bring about massive massive improvements in that. Right. So that is what I wanted to tell here. And on that note, I end my talk here, but open for any questions, open for any feedback on this. Those of you who have